soft cover, where we host the digital releases of new and upcoming books. Today we have the release of Bravest of the Brave, written by Lieutenant General Satish Dua and published by HarperCollins. Lieutenant General Dua is a retired officer of the Indian Army with a distinguished 4-decade career. He is a counterterrorism specialist from 8 Jammu and Kashmir Light Infantry. Among other tenures, he served as a corps commander of the 15 Corps during the 2016 surgical strikes on terrorist camps in Pakistan occupied Kashmir. He played a major role in planning and executing the strikes. He also served as the Chief of Integrated Defense Staff and steered the construction of National War Memorial in Delhi. His latest release is about Naib Subedar Chuni Lal's journey. Let's hear more about the book from Lieutenant General Dua, who is here to talk to us today. Thank you so much for joining us, sir.
Thank you, Smriti. Thank you very much for having me on the show, and I'm very pleased to have this uh, first interview on my third book called Bravest of the Brave.
So, sir, given your long military career, you have undoubtedly met numerous exceptional officers and jawans. So, what about Chunni Lal resonated with you and compelled you to write his story?
Um, that's a very good question to begin with, Smriti, because it gives me an opportunity to tell the viewers, and I, uh, would certainly want the youth to draw an inspiration from his story. Why Chunilal? He has he has had a very unique career path of bravery. As a rookie soldier, barely 19 years old, and I'm only talking about his achievements now. As a young rookie soldier, few months out of his training, um, he was part of the highest attack in the world, in which at Siachen Glacier in 1987, in which then Naib Subedar Bana Singh was awarded a Paramveer Chakra at 21,153 feet. The post was then renamed as Bana Top. Young Chuni Lal was a part of that assault team, and he was the first one to reach the post. He was awarded a Sena Medal. Thereon, uh, maybe it was his baptization by fire or his intrinsic bravery, or the fact that he he was then sort of his upbringing was amongst heroes, because we got our battalion got one Paramveer Chakra, one Mahavir Chakra, one Uttam Yudh Seva Medal, seven Veer Chakras, 10 Sena medals, and about 70 commendation cards in that operation at Siachen Glacier. So all his upbringing thereafter, he was the youngest among them. All his upbringing thereafter was among such heroes in the battalion. And he proved his mettle again and again. As a Havaldar on the line of control, he was awarded Veer Chakra. And many years later, he on the line of control was awarded the highest award of Ashok Chakra. So this is the highest combination that we have in Indian Army of gallantry awards. Ashok Chakra, sadly the Ashok Chakra was posthumous, but Ashok Chakra, Veer Chakra, and Sena Medal. That is the reason for me to bring out the story. And as we go by and by, I will talk about other aspects of his personality. But to answer your question as to that will answer your question as to why I chose this story. And the last very important point is very dear to my heart. We are from the same battalion. I'm so fortunate that I'm from that battalion. The
Eight
battalion
Jackalai.
8 Jackalai Siachen. Siachen is an honorific prefix suffix awarded to our battalion, and
Okay.
I was also his commanding officer. I've known him very closely. We've been in combat together. I've seen him up close In fact, his Veer Chakra was with me. I mean, when I was a commanding officer, I was in combat with him.
You've written a lot about Chunni Lal's journey even before his military career started, and then obviously his, uh, you know, about him after he entered the army.
Yeah.
So, what aspects of Chunni Lal's early life and upbringing do you believe shaped his character and prepared him for his military career?
Right. I think the first and the foremost is an environment that exists in in the ecosystem that he was born and brought up in the in Jammu and Kashmir.
Yeah.
In that region, there is a tradition of sending. Uh, Traditionally, it has been a tradition of sending one son at least to the army. One son takes care of the farm,
Hmm.
the family, the farms there. So that's been a tradition. And with that, all young men in villages in that region aspire to go to the army. And so that is the first aspect. So he as a young lad was always wanting to go to the army. Then the fact that during the training, as a reader will read through the book, during the training, it comes out that he seemed to be a natural soldier and a natural leader. Those are the aspects I've brought out. And that, for me, I had to do a bit, interview a lot of his colleagues. I went to his village twice. I've been to his village twice, and I've spent time there. I have also interviewed his other colleagues, that means soldiers who were with him, and so on and so forth. So the point is, I then gleaned all these facts from there. Then next is the aspect of what I told you myself earlier. He, in our battalion, he was brought up amongst heroes. At the age of 19, he got a Sena medal, but he was looking up to the Paramveer Chakra, who was section commander. He was looking up to the Mahavir Chakra, who was in his battalion, and so many other brave soldiers. So he was nurtured in that atmosphere. And I think as years grew by, he wizened up, or he was, he matured up more than his beyond his years. And as a commanding officer, I'll round up with this sentence. I've used this sentence often. As a commanding officer, when I was a commanding officer, he was a combat seasoned Havaldar. I felt very reassured when Chunni was there. I used to always feel when Chunni is there, uh, everything will be fine. He inspired that kind of confidence. In fact, I was long. I mean, I'd gone finished my service in the battalion and moved on to higher appointments.
So Chunilal was both a brave soldier and a kind person. How did you balance both sides of him in your book as someone who knew him purely in professional capacity?
Um, you see, on his personal aspects, I knew something. It's not that I did not know anything at all. In a battalion in the Indian Army, we grow up together, officers and men. For example, when I was commissioned as a second lieutenant, the boys who were there as the lowest ranks, as a rifleman or a lance naik, when I grew up, when I became a commanding officer, one of them was the Subedar Major. So you know your men to a great extent. For instance, I will tell you one aspect of Chuni Lal, which I brought out in the book. At a certain point, his when his second child was born, we were in thick of operations in the late 90s, where there was a lot of infiltration going on, and we had a lot of operations going. He did not go home for the delivery of his child.
Hmm.
And when his company commander asked him, this is what his company commander reported to me later. I was the commanding officer. He said, "Why didn't you go then?" When he asked for leave later, "Why didn't you go then?" He says, "Sir, I think I was required more in my battalion at that time. Now that it is winters, because in winters the operations reduce, so I think I can go home now." And of course, he added one sentence. Besides, I didn't want to miss all the action. So, that shows a man's quality. Now, this is not only as a soldier, it also shows his, his, the side of it. I mean, his human side of it. In one of the United Nations operation, when he was in Somalia, he there was a woman who came, a local woman, came to return the money, and she was looking for a soldier who's given this to us. The commanding officer then told me this, and I've reproduced the incident. Uh, Looked around. Now, what had happened was this: Chunilal bought a fowl, a chicken, from a woman for $1. She didn't have the change. He gave $100 note to her. And the next day, and she promised that she'll return the change next day, and she did come back. The commanding officer asked him, Chuni, what if she had not returned? So he simply said, Sir, I know if she had not returned, I would have lost the money. But I think yesterday she needed that $1 more. I mean, that just brings out his human qualities in him. Even in his during his childhood, I have found that he was. I when I went, I interviewed many people and to understand how, as a young boy, he was. So he was very quiet. He was not one of those boisterous boys, but understated and always very kind to others. So this is how I piece things together.
Okay. So at the time of writing the book and during your research, what are some of the most challenging aspects of reconstructing Naib Subedar Chuni Lal's experiences, especially those from his combat engagements?
So I was with him in combat during the years uh, that I mentioned, about 3 years on the LOC, numerous combat situations for a little over 3 years that we were together. So those incidents I can I have almost a total recall myself in the certain situations that I was not there. Those who were with him worked under me. So it was very easy to reconstruct that part. The tricky part, as you said, was when he got Ashok Chakra, when he got Sena Medal. I was not in that operation. When he got Ashok Chakra, I was not in the battalion also. So, so you have to reconstruct the operations. Everyone has a different perspective. So you have to put their perspectives together to distill the story or how the operation progressed. So that is a bit of a challenge. When I say challenge, because uh, everyone gives his perspective. Everyone is giving you the true story, but it is how, depending on where he was. If he was actually along with Chunni, and I was very fortunate. Um, when they went up to Siachen Glacier together, Lakshman Das was with him. The two of them were buddies, and they actually walked up together. And Lakshman Das then was eventually the Surdar Major of a battalion of our battalion. He got Veer Chakra in the same operation, and he was with him throughout. And he belonged to roughly the same area in JNK. They were good friends. Lakshman was 1 year senior to him. So I was very fortunate there that I had someone who was actually with him throughout that particular operation. So that helped me. So what I'm trying to bring out is that to reconstruct the combat, despite yours, like I said, I was myself there in the operations as commanding officer, but there were a lot of things to reconstruct. One had to speak to several people. And since I wrote this book after my retirement, several few years after my retirement, I went back to my battalion so many times. I went back to the region, to his house. I had to speak to the retired people, the soldiers that had all retired. I had to speak to them. Several of them were on video call or audio call. And so, but I think last sentence, the f- the advantage that I have was I know all of them personally. We've been in the same battalion, so it's easy to relate to them. Their responses to me are frank and things like that.
You know, during Operation Rajiv, which was a remarkable feat, how did Naib Subedar Chunni Lal's action during the operation contribute to its success? And what lessons can young officers today draw from his bravery and tactical acumen in such extreme conditions?
Uh, the good part, or the highlight of his participation in Operation Rajiv was the fact that he was the youngest soldier in that assault team. And as Naib Subedar, later, now presently, he's a living legend, Honorary Captain Bana Singh. When I spoke with him on more than one occasions about Chuni Lal's operation, this particular operation, where he was part of his section. One sentence sticks to my mind. He says, "When I saw young Chunni in action, I felt as if he had no fear in him." You know, the next sentence is mine. You know, it's a very dangerous thing to have in a soldier, because some amount of fear is required, because only then you can be cautious, only then you will not risk your life and the life of people, your comrades, or people who are under you.
Hmm.
Some caution is required. So, you know, like Bana Singh saying that Chunni had no fear. Now, that is where, when and Lakshman Das confirms that, as they were crawling up, he says, he was the first one to crawl towards the enemy bunker. It is, remember, it is 21,000, more than 21,000 feet. Temperature is minus 30, minus 35 degrees centigrade. You can't breathe properly because of lack of oxygen. And when you crawl up to the enemy bunker where the firing is going on, he crawled in close to try and throw a lob a grenade inside the loophole. So that calls for a great amount of bravery, some amount of recklessness, audacity. And of course, when you read the operation, you realize that they were in operation, they had been in operations for 3 days. Some kind of mental fatigue sets in. You have an attitude of, couldn't care less, and you get a little reckless. So I think all that uh, is what shaped Chunni's bravery in that operation. And as I said earlier, thereafter there was no looking back.
So, sir, you mentioned in the book that Jackali is a unique regiment, and this is the only regiment that was born in battle and purified in blood. Can you elaborate on this and tell our viewers the history of this regiment?
Um, that's a very interesting question. In 1947, in the month of October, when Pakistan sent in Kabylias, the invaders,
Hmm.
mixed with the Pakistan army soldiers
Hmm.
into Jammu and Kashmir. At that moment, at several places, a few young men rose up in revolt. They grouped together. They formed volunteer groups. They had
Hmm.
their own weapons, personal weapons, and they tried to resist these invaders. S- all these groups, volunteer groups, were later grouped as a paramilitary force, which was called Jammu and Kashmir Militia, JNK Militia for short.
Hmm.
So this was the beginning of our regiment. That is why I said born in battle. What is Jammu and Kashmir Militia stayed as a paramilitary force till 1972. They participated in the 47-48 operations,
Hmm.
participated in the 1965 war, participated in 1971. My battalion, for instance, in 1971 was 8 J&K militia. We
Hmm.
were on the line of control in Jammu and Kashmir, the area of Chham. Our battalion tenaciously defended its own defended area. We were awarded 3 Veer Chakras, 2 Sena medals, 3 mention in dispatches, and 2 battle honors. So our
Hmm.
battalion, similarly, other battalions did well. So in 1972, then the entire regiment, J&K militia, was regularized or was made into a part of a regular army. It was also, the name was changed to Jammu and Kashmir Light Infantry, JAKLI for short. So this is a unique aspect of our regiment. And the second unique, the only other unique aspect of our regiment is that our regiment, the Jammu and Kashmir Light Infantry, we have a concept of MMG. The It is not the medium machine gun. It is the Mandir Masjid Gurdwara under one roof. So, in fact, we now added another G, a Gompa also, because we have a smattering of Ladakhi troops, the Buddhists from Ladakh. So, we have this concept of MMG was started in 1984 by one of our colonel of the regiments, General M.L. Chibber, Lieutenant General M.L. Chibber. So, that is another unique aspect of our regiment, which of course is being now followed by the Indian Army and everyone. We have Sardharm Sthals in all military stations.
So, in the book, you mentioned that it was a tradition in the village of Jammu and Kashmir to send one son to the army. Does does this tradition still stand, especially after the abrogation of Article 370?
Um, Well, this has been a traditional trend. This is found in Punjab also. It is also found in the Jammu region certainly. Now, as far as Article 370 in Kashmir is concerned, I will not be able to give you an empirical answer. I do not have figures to sort of prove or disprove that, but that ethos still continues, even in Kashmir, in all of our rallies, even now, recruitment rallies, because our that is Jackali Regimental Training Center is in Srinagar, in Badgam, very close to Srinagar. So when there are recruitment rallies in J&K, even today, and since you mentioned Article 370, after abrogation of Article 370 also, the number of youth that come for recruitment in a recruitment rally is mind-boggling. So there has been no let up on that.
And despite Agnipath coming in.
Exactly. Despite the Agnipath scheme, which in pockets does not find so much favor, yet the numbers that throng the recruitment rallies has not abated.
Okay, that's interesting, sir. So, Naib Subedar Chuni Lal's participation in UN peacekeeping operations, including missions in Somalia and Sudan, reflects his commitment to international peace and stability. So, can you share any personal insights or anecdotes about his experience during these operations? Or rather, how did these missions shape his perspective on military service and global peacekeeping?
Firstly, a disclaimer: I was not a part of these operations because one, in the first mission in Somalia, he was selected to go with another battalion of
Hmm.
our regiment.
Hmm.
So I have the stories given by his officers from that battalion, mainly from the commanding officer also.
Yeah.
In the second mission, he went with our battalion. Our battalion went to Sudan. I was then serving in Vietnam, so I had finished the command of my battalion. But I have a detailed account. Now, in when he went with our battalion, when the commanding officer, then commanding officer, uh, Colonel Shekhawat, then Colonel Shekhawat, when he went for his initial reconnaissance, he took a very small core team with him, and he took Chunilal along with him because Chunilal was by then a very combat seasoned Havaldar and experienced man. Uh, he long was he was already a Veer Chakra and a Sena medal, and Chunilal proved his sort of worth at every moment. There is a particular incident in the battalion, and I recall this anecdote. There was a General Tangu of the rebel side in Sudan, and he was refusing to talk to the authorities. And when he was refusing to talk to the authorities in the area that he controlled, he did not. Our battalion CO, that is Colonel Shekhawat, then Colonel Shekhawat, was the sector commander in that area, and he wanted to land there and to sort of talk with him, persuade him to come overboard and join the negotiations or talks. That General Tangu, or if I have the pronunciation right, was refusing. He was not allowing the helicopters to land. Chunilal then suggested to the CEO, Sir, why don't we land there? He says he's not allowing us to land. He says, what if we secure the helipad first? Now that he said, I will go there, we will take a team, we will go there and we will secure the helipad. So we'll securing the helipad for the viewers means you go and secure, that means you take up positions around the helipad in such a manner that no rebel or no forces can actually interfere with the landing of the helicopter. This is often done in airborne operations.
Hmm.
So he took a 4 or 5 hour, I don't recall the exact duration, 3, 4 hour patrol, river patrol. They went by Nile River and they went and secured the helipad, radioed back that they are ready to receive the helicopter. Our commanding officer landed there. Now that rebel general's hand was forced because the helicopter had already landed. The UN forces, that is our battalion, they had already landed. And then he came forward. Uh, and then eventually they persuaded him to come over and talk. And so it happened. So that is one incident. that stays in mind very vivid.
Okay. So thank you so much for joining us today, sir. I once again urge our viewers to go read the book, Bravest of the Brave. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And Jai Hind.